Have you ever wondered why the truth rarely defeats power? Why scandals fade, lies get rebranded, and those who expose corruption often fall instead of those who commit it? Today we are going to solve a disturbing question. Why does power protect itself, even from the truth that could destroy it? Not just political power, not just institutions, but psychological power, the invisible force that governs families, corporations, governments, friendships, and even your own mind. By the end of this exploration, you will understand why truth alone is weak, why morality is often irrelevant, and why power survives not because it is right, but because it fears extinction more than it fears being exposed. Power fears exposure more than it fears corruption. Corruption does not terrify power. Exposure does. Corruption can be managed, negotiated, concealed, even ritualized. Exposure, however, threatens something far more fragile than morality. It threatens legitimacy. And legitimacy is the invisible spine that holds power upright. Power can survive wrongdoing. It can survive injustice. It can survive cruelty. History shows us empires soaked in blood that endured for centuries. But what power cannot survive easily is the moment when its image fractures in the collective mind. For power is sustained not merely by force, but by belief. Once belief weakens, obedience becomes uncertain. Once obedience becomes uncertain, authority trembles. Corruption, in many cases, strengthens internal bonds. It creates shared secrets, mutual guilt, silent contract between those at the top. A corrupt structure is often a tightly united one because every participant is implicated. Each member knows that if the structure collapses, they fall with it. Corruption becomes glue. It binds individuals through fear and complicity. Exposure, however, dissolves that glue. It isolates individuals, forces accountability, and invites external judgment. The real danger of exposure lies not in the facts themselves, but in the shift of perception. Power depends on narrative. It carefully constructs an image of competence, righteousness, inevitability. Even when flaws are visible, they are reframed as necessary sacrifices or misunderstood complexities. But exposure strips away narrative control. It introduces unpredictability. It allows the public, the subordinate, or the rival to reinterpret what was once accepted. Once interpretation shifts, power loses control over meaning. And when meaning is no longer controlled, authority becomes unstable. Consider how quickly institutions act when secrets are threatened. Whistleblowers are not treated as mere critics. They are treated as existential dangers. Their character is dissected, their motives questioned, their past scrutinized. The energy used to silence exposure often exceeds the energy used to correct wrongdoing. This reveals a deeper truth. The preservation of image outweighs the correction of behavior. Power calculates differently than morality. Morality asks, is this right? Power asks, will this weaken us? If corruption can be hidden, it remains a contained infection. If exposed, it becomes contagious. It spreads doubt across the structure. Doubt leads to inquiry. Inquiry leads to resistance. Resistance threatens continuity. Continuity is sacred to power. It is more sacred than virtue. Exposure introduces instability because it reminds people that authority is not invincible. It reveals vulnerability, and vulnerability invites challenge. Even if the exposed truth does not immediately dismantle power, it plants suspicion. Suspicion erodes trust slowly but persistently. Power can endure hatred more easily than it can endure ridicule. It can endure opposition more easily than it can endure disbelief. For when people cease to believe in authority's superiority, they begin to imagine alternatives. And imagination is the seed of rebellion. Power fears exposure because exposure democratizes knowledge. What was once confined to private chambers becomes public property. Secrets become shared awareness. And shared awareness weakens hierarchical distance. The powerful lose their mystique. They become human, flawed, anxious, fallible. Once humanized, They are no longer untouchable. Corruption does not automatically remove power because it often aligns with a deeper instinct of human nature: ambition, greed, self-preservation. Many tolerate corruption as long as it remains abstract or distant. But exposure makes corruption personal. It forces confrontation. It disrupts psychological comfort. Power understands this discomfort well. That is why it invests more effort in managing perception than in eliminating misconduct. Apologies are crafted carefully. Investigations are staged. Responsibility is redirected toward expendable figures. The structure remains intact while individuals are sacrificed. The appearance of accountability replaces actual transformation. In this way, power neutralizes exposure without surrendering control. It adapts. It absorbs the shock. It reforms cosmetically while preserving its core. The paradox is that corruption is often systemic, but exposure is individual. Corruption can be distributed across layers, making it difficult to isolate blame. Exposure, however, usually has a face, a document, a recording, a person who speaks. And because it has a face, it can be attacked. Power does not fear wrongdoing because wrongdoing can be concealed within complexity. It fears clarity. It fears illumination. It fears the moment when hidden mechanisms become visible to those who were never meant to see them. For once seen, they cannot be unseen. Exposure transforms passive subjects into observers. Observers become critics. Critics become challengers. And challenges destabilize the illusion that power is natural, permanent, and justified. Power is less concerned with being moral than with being unquestioned. And exposure is the beginning of questioning. The will to dominate overrides the love of truth. Human beings praise truth in public and resist it in private. They speak of honesty as a virtue, celebrate transparency as progress, and claim that facts matter above all else. Yet when truth threatens status, authority, or control, it is quietly reshaped, postponed, or denied. This contradiction is not hypocrisy alone. It is a consequence of something deeper, the will to dominate. At the core of human behavior lies not a serene love of accuracy, but a restless striving. This striving does not ask whether something is true. It asks whether something strengthens or weakens position. Truth becomes secondary to advantage. It is weighed not by its clarity but by its utility. If it empowers, it is embraced. If it destabilizes, it is resisted. Power operates through this instinct. The will to dominate is not always grand or theatrical. It does not always appear as conquest or tyranny. Often it appears as subtle insistence, the need to be right in an argument, the refusal to admit error, the discomfort when authority is questioned. These small gestures reveal the same psychological foundation that governs larger systems. The desire to maintain superiority overrides a desire to be corrected. Truth demands humility. It requires acknowledgement of limitation. To accept truth that contradicts one's position is to concede weakness, even if only momentarily. But the will to dominate interprets concession as danger. In competitive environments, political, corporate, social, any sign of weakness can invite challenge. Therefore, truth becomes negotiable. The powerful individual or institution does not evaluate truth neutrally. It evaluates it strategically. Does this fact reinforce my legitimacy? Does it strengthen my narrative? Does it increase compliance? If yes, it is celebrated as enlightenment. If no, it is reframed as distortion, misinformation, or hostility. This selective relationship with truth reveals that dominance is primary. Truth is instrumental. Even at the level of the individual psyche, this dynamic is visible. When confronted with evidence that contradicts deeply held beliefs, most people do not calmly revise themselves. They defend, they reinterpret, they rationalize. Their identity feels threatened. Identity, like power, seeks continuity. The mind builds narratives to preserve self-image. Truth that disrupts this image feels like an attack. Scale this tendency upward and it becomes institutional. Organizations construct identities just as individuals do. They cultivate reputations, missions, moral positioning. When truth contradicts this cultivated image, it is experienced not as information but as assault. To accept it openly would mean dismantling carefully built authority. It would require public admission of fallibility. And fallibility reduces dominance. The will to dominate thrives on certainty. It projects confidence. It presents decisions as necessary and inevitable. Truth, however, often introduces ambiguity. It complicates narratives. It reveals complexity where simplicity was advertised. Ambiguity weakens command. If leaders appear uncertain, followers become uncertain, and uncertainty disrupts hierarchy. Thus, the love of truth becomes subordinate to the preservation of clarity, even if that clarity is artificial. There is also a deeper psychological motive. Dominance provides security. To control is to feel protected from unpredictability. Truth, especially inconvenient truth, introduces unpredictability. It suggests that reality is not fully managed. It exposes flaws in planning, gaps in knowledge, unintended consequences. The will to dominate resists unpredictability because unpredictability threatens control. This is why power often surrounds itself with affirmation. It prefers advisors who reinforce its perspective. It filters information before it reaches the center, not necessarily out of malice, but out of instinct. The instinct is to reduce friction. Contradictory truth creates friction, and friction slows momentum. Momentum is essential to dominance. The tragedy is that truth is not inherently destructive. It can correct errors, prevent collapse, and strengthen systems in the long term. But the will to dominate is short-sighted. It prioritizes immediate control over distant stability. It chooses preservation of authority today over structural integrity tomorrow. This is why leaders sometimes double down when confronted with undeniable facts. To retreat would be to admit vulnerability, and vulnerability can shift power dynamics instantly. Better to deny, reinterpret, or attack than to yield ground. The will to dominate also manipulates language. It reframes truth into something more palatable. It uses euphemisms to soften exposure. It shifts focus toward peripheral issues. In doing so, it maintains the illusion of engagement while protecting the core of authority. Language becomes a shield. At its most extreme, the will to dominate does not merely ignore truth. It punishes it. It treats those who present uncomfortable realities as adversaries, not because the truth is false, but because it threatens hierarchy. The truth teller becomes symbolic of resistance, and dominance does not tolerate symbols of resistance. The love of truth requires courage. It demands a willingness to lose status temporarily for the sake of alignment with reality. But dominance prioritizes status itself. It values the preservation of control above alignment with fact. In this tension, truth is often sacrificed. What remains is a world where power speaks confidently, even when uncertain, where authority insists, even when flawed, where dominance persists, not because it is correct, but because it refuses to yield. Institutions develop psychological immune systems against truth. An institution is not merely a structure of rules and roles. It is a living organism composed of collective instincts. It breathes through procedures, thinks through committees, and protects itself through habits that appear rational but are deeply psychological. Like any organism, its first priority is survival, and for survival, it develops defenses. These defenses are not always visible. They do not wear armor or carry weapons. They exist in narratives, policies, hierarchies, and cultural norms. They function as a psychological immune system designed to detect and neutralize threats. Among the most dangerous of these threats is destabilizing truth. When a disruptive truth enters an institution, it is rarely welcomed as an opportunity for growth. It is assessed as a potential infection. The first reaction is often denial. Denial is efficient. It requires no structural change. It reassures members that nothing fundamental is wrong. If denial fails, the next response is minimization. The issue is reframed as isolated, exaggerated, or misunderstood. By shrinking the perceived scale of the problem, the institution reduces its urgency. If truth persists, more complex defenses activate. Responsibility is redirected toward individuals rather than systems. A single employee, a single department, a single procedural oversight becomes a scapegoat. The structure remains innocent. Only a replaceable part is flawed. This strategy protects the integrity of the whole while satisfying the appearance of accountability. These reactions are rarely coordinated conspiracies. They emerge naturally from the shared interest in continuity. Members of the institution are bound by dependence. Their careers, reputations, and identities are intertwined with the stability of the organization. To acknowledge systemic failure would threaten not only the institution, but their own position within it. Therefore, defense of the institution becomes defense of the self. Institutions also control information flow. Access to knowledge is tiered. Language is specialized. Decisions are buried in complexity. This complexity is not always malicious. It often arises from growth and bureaucracy. Yet complexity functions as insulation. When truth challenges the institution, it must navigate layers of procedure, review boards, legal departments, and public relations teams. Each layer filters, delays, and reframes a threat. Time becomes a weapon. Delay weakens outrage. Public attention shifts. Urgency fades. By the time truth reaches the surface, it has been softened, contextualized, overshadowed. The immune system has neutralized the initial shock. Another defense is moral inversion. The individual who exposes truth may be portrayed as reckless, disloyal, or disruptive. The institution claims to protect stability, jobs, or public trust, while the truth teller is accused of endangering them. In this inversion, truth becomes harmful and silence becomes responsible. Members are encouraged to equate loyalty with virtue. Questioning becomes betrayal. Cultural reinforcement strengthens this immunity. Institutions cultivate shared values and rituals that promote cohesion. Team spirit, mission statements, and internal recognition systems create emotional bonds. These bonds discourage dissent. To challenge, the institution feels like challenging a community. Social pressure replaces explicit censorship. Colleagues distance themselves from those who raise uncomfortable issues, not always out of hostility, but out of fear of association. Fear is subtle but powerful. It does not require threats. It thrives on possibility. The possibility of lost promotion, strained relationships, damaged reputation. Individuals calculate risk silently. Many conclude that truth is not worth personal sacrifice. The immune system succeeds not by crushing truth violently, but by making alignment with it socially and professionally costly. Institutions also adopt the language of reform without embracing its substance. Committees are formed. Investigations are announced. Policies are reviewed. These actions create the appearance of responsiveness. Yet structural change is slow and often superficial. The process itself becomes a shield. By demonstrating procedural engagement, the institution diffuses external pressure while maintaining internal stability. Over time, members internalize these defensive patterns. They learn what topics are safe and which are dangerous. They anticipate resistance before it occurs. Self-censorship replaces open suppression. The immune system no longer needs to react aggressively because potential threats are neutralized in advance. This psychological immunity is not entirely irrational. Institutions that reacted impulsively to every disruptive claim would fragment quickly. Stability requires some filtering. But when the immune system becomes overactive, it begins to reject necessary correction. It treats healing as harm. It confuses survival with denial. The deeper reason institutions resist destabilizing truth is that truth exposes structural vulnerability. It reveals that systems are imperfect, that authority is fallible, that outcomes are not always just. Such revelations weaken the aura of inevitability that institutions depend upon. Without the perception of competence and reliability, compliance declines. Thus, the immune system defends not only against factual error but against perception of weakness. It prioritizes coherence over accuracy. It values continuity over transformation. It ensures that the institution remains intact, even if unresolved flaws persist beneath the surface. In this way, institutions survive crises not because they eliminate dysfunction, but because they contain and reframe it. They adapt their narrative more quickly than they adapt their structure. They protect their image as vigilantly as their operations. And through this intricate web of denial, delay, redirection, and cultural pressure, destabilizing truth is absorbed, isolated, or rendered harmless before it can reach the core. The individual who speaks truth threatens a structure, not just a lie. When an individual speaks an uncomfortable truth, it appears at first as a simple act of correction. A lie is exposed. A hidden act is revealed. A contradiction is illuminated. On the surface, the truth teller seems to be challenging a specific falsehood. But from the perspective of power, the threat runs far deeper. The individual is not merely attacking a statement. They are destabilizing the structure that depends upon controlled perception. A structure survives by maintaining coherence. Its authority rests on predictability, hierarchy, and shared assumptions. Once these assumptions are questioned publicly, the foundation begins to tremble. The truth teller introduces uncertainty, and uncertainty is corrosive to obedience. Obedience relies less on force than on belief. People comply because they assume that authority is legitimate, informed, and stable. When someone inside or close to the structure reveals hidden contradictions, the myth of stability weakens. If one lie is possible, others may be possible. If one injustice is real, others may be concealed. Doubt spreads faster than reform. From within the structure, this doubt appears contagious. It threatens not just leaders but the collective order. Colleagues begin to whisper. Subordinates begin to question. Superiors begin to feel exposed. Even if the truth concerns a single event, its implications extend beyond it. It suggests that authority is not infallible. For this reason, the individual who speaks truth is often treated not as a critic, but as a traitor. Criticism can be debated. Betrayal must be punished. The difference lies in loyalty. Institutions expect internal loyalty above external honesty. To reveal internal flaws publicly violates an unspoken contract. The contract demands silence for the sake of unity. Unity is fragile. It depends on shared narratives. When a truth teller disrupts the narrative, they disrupt unity. The structure reacts defensively, not because the facts are false, but because the exposure fractures solidarity. The individual becomes symbolic of disobedience. Isolation becomes the first method of neutralization. The truth teller is distant from allies. Invitations disappear. Communication narrows. Support becomes quiet and cautious. Social belonging is subtly withdrawn. Humans fear exclusion instinctively. The cost of speaking truth becomes visible. If isolation fails, character becomes a battleground. Motives are questioned. Past mistakes are resurrected. Personal weaknesses are highlighted. The conversation shifts from the content of the truth to the character of the speaker. This redirection serves a crucial purpose. It transforms a structural issue into a personal flaw. The institution remains intact. Only the individual is suspect. The structure understands something the truth teller often underestimates. Most people prioritize security over accuracy. They calculate consequences. Aligning with a destabilizing figure may risk career, reputation, or social standing. Even those who privately agree with the truth may publicly remain silent. Silence strengthens a structure. The threat to the individual lies in their unpredictability. Institutions function through managed communication. Messages are approved, filtered, and framed. A truth teller bypasses these controls. They introduce raw information. They disrupt timing. They refuse to coordinate. This loss of control is what alarms power. Control over narrative is control over interpretation. Once interpretation becomes decentralized, authority weakens. The individual who speaks truth opens space for alternative perspectives. They reveal that authority is not absolute. They demonstrate that dissent is possible. This possibility alone is destabilizing. Moreover, the truth teller exposes vulnerability. Structures project strength to deter challenge. Exposure of weakness invites scrutiny from rivals and opportunists. Internally, it may inspire others to question decisions. Externally, it may embolden competitors. Thus, the individual's act, though morally motivated, carries strategic consequences. There is also a psychological discomfort within the structure. Members who remain silent may feel an unspoken guilt. The presence of someone who refuses silence confronts them with their own compromise. Rather than confront that discomfort, many redirect resentment toward the truth teller. It is easier to condemn the one who speaks than to examine oneself. In some cases, the structure adapts superficially. It may adopt partial reforms to neutralize the individual's influence. By appearing responsive, it reduces the urgency of dissent. The truth is acknowledged selectively, stripped of its most destabilizing implications. The structure survives while claiming progress. Yet the fundamental tension remains. The individual represents conscience. The structure represents continuity. Conscience demands alignment with reality, regardless of cost. Continuity demands preservation, regardless of contradiction. From the structure's perspective, the individual threatens cohesion, predictability, and authority simultaneously. They challenge not only what is said, but who has the right to say it. They undermine hierarchy by asserting that truth does not require permission. This assertion alone destabilizes order. If truth can emerge from anywhere, authority is no longer the exclusive gatekeeper of meaning. The structure must then compete with the individual for credibility. And credibility is a currency of power. Thus, the individual who speaks truth stands not merely against deception, but against the architecture that shelters it. Their words carry weight beyond their intention. They expose not only a lie, but the mechanisms that allowed it to persist. And once those mechanisms are visible, the illusion of invulnerability fades.